Have you ever had a gut feeling? And if you have, how often do you actually listen to it? Today, we'll be talking about how we can go from having gut feelings to gut healing as you join us in the third episode of Functional Nutrition and the Wellness Lifestyle with me. My name is Natalia Garcia, and I am a board certified integrated and functional nutrition practitioner and the person that will hold your hand throughout these 10 episodes so that you can live a vibrant life, prevent disease, and actually reverse disease by updating your eating habits, your daily habits, and learning about how your body functions the best. Did you know that what you put on your fork is the most powerful tool that you have to prevent disease and optimize not just your overall brain function, your digestive health, your heart health? All of it is under your control with what you put on your fork. So today we will be talking about how you can go from having a gut feeling to gut healing. You'll learn about how your gut drives your health, your brain, immune system, and longevity. Let's get started with how you will understand that if you are diagnosed with a condition, whether that be diabetes, high blood pressure, irritable bowel syndrome, celiac disease, autoimmune condition, depression, whatever that is, there's always going to be a reason that is driving that disease. And I want you to understand that a big organ that drives disease and imbalances is your gut. So to explain that, I will use this image. And I need you to think of yourself as a plant and that you are more than just the leaves. You have stems and you have roots. So, how chronic disease appears is due to the imbalances of very complex systems that we have in our body. So, as I mentioned, if you get diagnosed with a condition, most doctors unfortunately say, like, hey, here's some medication, goodbye, come back in 6 months. Or they may say, hey, there's nothing you can do. But I'm here to empower you and let you know that there's a lot that you can do because it is under your control to optimize the systems that are driving the disease. So today we will be focusing on the gastrointestinal system that has a direct impact on your immune and inflammatory balance. And you will learn and hopefully apply how to optimize the functioning of this system. Having that said, what is even more important is for you to know what is driving these imbalances. Let's take a look at a few. As you can see, the root causes for these systems being all out of balance can be several. Today, we will be talking about the microbiome. What a word, right? So the microbiome is an environment that lives in our body that consists of different species of bacteria that dictate a lot of our health. And what dictates the health of this environment? You'll learn that it's food, it's movement, it's stress response, it's sleep, and many aspects of your day-to-day living and being that you can actually take charge of and change your health around. On our last show, we talked a lot about being aware of our habits, aware about whether we're eating out of legit hunger or whether we're eating because we're bored or stressed or feeling unrested and unbalanced. So we talked about habits. Today we're going to talk about choices for optimal gut health. You probably know this quote, and it's one of my favorite quotes ever. And this is all disease begins in the gut. And this ancient physician was very, very smart and true because all disease really does begin in the gut. So if you have a healthy gut, you will have not just a healthy body, but a healthy brain, a healthy immune system. And you can prevent and reverse a lot of disease. So if you've been diagnosed or have symptoms of heartburn, constipation, bloated, or diarrhea, or just abnormal bowel movements, just know that it's not normal. Why do I say this? Because a lot of people who come see me that may not have the main complaint of heartburn, constipation, or diarrhea feel it's normal. And as an example, last week I was sitting with a client and she came to see me because she had diabetes and high blood pressure. And we were talking about bowel movements. She was like, oh, you know what, Natalia, I'm actually really constipated and I only have a bowel movement every other day or sometimes every 3 days. And I need to take this specific laxative so I can have a bowel movement. I'm like, all right, how long have you been dealing with that? And she said, all my life. I was like, all right, let's have a conversation about that, about bowel health and bowel movement, because you will discover that a lot of your blood sugar imbalances and high blood pressure have to do with your digestive system. So if you've been bloated most of your life, if you've been constipated or have heartburn, know that it's not normal. So let's learn about what is it that impacts our gut and what does our gut impact. You'll be amazed to learn that we're like spider webs. So we have all these systems that I've been telling you about and that we will be covering throughout these episodes that, for example, if your gastrointestinal status is out of whack, that will be driving a lot of imbalances in your immune and inflammatory systems. So we want these systems to be in balance because, as you can see, they communicate with one another. So as an example, if our gastrointestinal status is compromised and we're not having a bowel movement because we're constipated, then it will be very difficult to detoxify our body from substances that our body needs to just really get rid of on a day-to-day basis. That's why most of the clients that come see me, I encourage them to drink plenty of water, to get a good sweat, and to eat foods that will promote a healthy digestive system so that they can detoxify what needs to be getting out of the body. So if you focus on your food choices and daily activities to enhance and optimize the systems, most of your other systems will be optimized as well. You will be more energetic, your hormones will be in balance, you'll have better mood and better sleep. So remember, we are all connected like spider webs. So guess what? We actually are what we eat. As an example, our brain is made out of fat. And if we eat the right fats, such as avocados, our brain will actually have the nutrients that it needs to sustain itself. So this meat suit that you see here is made out of the foods that I eat and what regulates the absorption and metabolism of the foods that I eat. The gut, the intestine. So it's fascinating that most of us think that the gut only does the functions of digesting and absorbing. Guess what? It actually does way more than that. If you have a food allergy or if your body really doesn't react well to a food, your gut will actually tell you, hey, let's keep this food out by you having a reaction. So that is a way of your very smart organ, which has a nervous system of its own, telling you that that food is not right for you. You may love it, but guess what? It's not best for you, and your body knows better. That's how you go from gut feeling to gut healing. Now, the other amazing thing is that your gut knows what needs to be kept out and what can go in. So I'll use this example. If there's something that you eat at a salad bar or you go to a party and all of a sudden you really have to go to the bathroom or you projectile whatever you ate, Guess what? This is on purpose by the intelligence of your gut because the gut knows that this can't be here. So it flushes it out with diarrhea or it makes you throw it up. And that's how it works. Your body is looking out for you. It's so huge that we feed our gut with the right foods, and these are going to be live foods that came from the earth, from the ocean, or from the sky. I will introduce you to the foods that will support a healthy bacterial environment. And I will also let you know which foods to let go of because they are making you sick, fat, and tired. Now let's talk about what the gut does for you. Tons of things. You'll learn that the gut is the home for beneficial microbes which participate and control all of our bodily functions, including what? Digestion, absorption, believe it or not, it impacts our weight status, our mood and our behavior, how hungry we feel, which foods we crave. Sometimes we're craving potato chips, right? Sometimes we're craving chocolate, sometimes we're craving bread. Like, where are these cravings coming from? A lot of it from your gut. Your gut also dictates how well you burn calories. So it dictates your metabolism. So if your gut is inflamed because we're eating pro-inflammatory foods, such as dead processed foods like chips, and having a lot of sugar, and also having a lot of creamers in our coffee that are just loaded with other sugar and artificial ingredients that are not compatible with your gut, then unfortunately, you may be craving foods that you are programming your gut to be craving. Now, having that said, some foods promote more inflammation than others. So your gut actually has a big impact on your inflammation levels. Why do I say this? Because a lot of folks that come see me for rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, or just chronic pain don't realize that that pain is coming from their gut. And there's a lot that they can do to change that. Having that said, know that your gut will have the power to make very healthy and potent neurotransmitters like serotonin that make you feel good. So it will keep you in this feel good, eat good, think good life cycle so that you can really feel well. One more thing to know is that our gut helps you fight bacteria. And that's because about 70% of one of our immune systems lives in the gut. And this says, hey, this can go in, this doesn't go in. Lastly, but not least, the gut also tells you how energetic or how tired you are and how your genes are expressed or not. So you may have the genes or the genetic predisposition to develop diabetes or cancer, and that happens a lot. But guess what? The environment of your gut, which is dictated by your food choices and other daily choices, will have the power to turn that gene on or off. So your genes don't control your destiny. You do with what you put in your mouth or not. I am fascinated about the fact that your gut is really, really, really large. And digestion starts in the mouth, and that's why we want to be chewing and smelling our food so that workers in our gut start making very specific substances so that you can absorb and digest the food molecules through these very specific villi. And I want you to picture these villi as little roots or little hairs that the job is to absorb and digest, actually start metabolism and detoxification and prevent stuff from coming in and keeping stuff out that shouldn't be. The most fascinating thing is that it is about the size of a tennis court. And why is this important? Because it's a huge surface area. So if you're sitting 8 to 10 hours a day and you're all wound up, this organ that is so large, and if we don't give it oxygen or blood flow by moving, the health and the functions of the gut won't be the best. Now, let's talk about how you can keep your roots very healthy so that they can absorb and do all the wonderful functions that I just mentioned. Important to know that your gut has 100 million neurons. That's more than the spinal cord. So when you have a feeling of you eating something and then feeling bloated or feeling tired, whatever that be, it can be a healthy food or it can be a food that you think it's healthy, but it's really not. And we'll talk about that. You have to listen to that gut because it really knows better. And it communicates to your brain through the gut-brain axis. And we will be talking about this. Now, I love using this image of a healthy ecosystem to explain what a healthy gut is. A healthy gut has diversity of species. It works really well. It really invites a lot of microorganisms to live there and to work together so that the gut can do all its functions. While an unhealthy ecosystem, it's been eroded, there's been recent fires, there's invasive weeds, overgrowths that I'll talk about. So this impacts the overall functionality. So let's talk about what that looks like. A gut imbalance. A gut imbalance is when the species of bacteria is totally not in balance. There's more bad than good bacteria. The medical term is known as dysbiosis. There's an overgrowth of pathogens, not enough healthy species, and not enough species overall. And I see this on people who always eat the same 3 foods, and they'll tell me, Natalia, I eat cereal for breakfast, and then I have a sandwich for lunch, and I'll have some chips, and then for dinner, I'll have mac and cheese with some meat and potatoes that came from a box. So unfortunately, these foods are pro-inflammatory to our gut, and they throw our system out of whack. I like using the picture of the rhino so that you know that we are like the rhino. The rhino has birds on its back. Why? Because there's little bugs that live on its back. So we have the same kind of system going on in our gut. So what would happen if all of a sudden the rhino gets 10 times more bugs in its skin? It'll have 10 times more birds. And that will really impact the health of the rhino. So we have the same kind of system going on in our body. And it's important for you to know which foods will promote that imbalance, this dysbiosis, which is a state of poor gut health. So which foods can cause gut imbalance? Unfortunately, processed dead foods. And by that, I mean foods that you may think that are good, but that unfortunately have a lot of ingredients that make your gut be out of balance. As an example, if we read the label of this bread, we will see that it has whole wheat flour, which unfortunately we cannot digest. It also has sugar as the second ingredient. It also has vegetable oil, soybean oil, that is very pro-inflammatory. And it also has yeast, which tends to be one of the most common overgrowths that are seen. So alcohol is another substance, unfortunately, that feeds the gut imbalance. And sugar, which can be found in coffee creamers, and that you may not know that when 1 tablespoon, you're actually consuming already 6 grams of sugar. So alcohol, sugar, bread, processed dead foods feed that state of dysbiosis and promote a lot of the inflammation in the gut. So I invite you to take a look at your choices and your habits, because you can prevent a lot of this that then gets really complicated and can lead to what is known as the buzzword leaky gut, and the medical term is intestinal permeability. But if you focus on the foods that are right for the gut and prevent inflammation, you're more likely to not develop this. So it's very much under your control. Some of ingredients that you want to really be paying attention to is artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners like sucralose and acesulfame potassium that are found in a lot of zero drinks and diet foods, as same as sugar alcohols, will feed the bad bacteria. So it will make everything worse. One of the most common overgrowths that I tend to see in my practice is called yeast overgrowth, candida overgrowth. This is a fungi that tends to really take over our gut. And we all have a microbiome, and this is the species of fungi that we have, and we all have candida. It's when it takes over our health because it's so abundant that it really leads to complications. So not everybody has this. You can actually get tested for this by doing a microbiome testing, but what you gotta know is that you don't wanna feed it with sugar, with alcohol, with processed carbohydrates, and with a lot of artificial dead processed foods. Because the toxins of this bacteria can be so abrasive that will be driving a condition that can actually lead to autoimmunity. And this is known as leaky gut or intestinal permeability. So as you can see, your gut junctions are supposed to be nice and tight in your intestinal barrier. And what happens over time when we're really chronically stressed, when we consume alcohol really frequently, when we take medications like antibiotics or steroids, and when we eat foods that are incompatible with our digestive system, and then we have toxins in all these processed foods, it really makes it hard for the quality and the membranes and all the cells in your gut to be nice and tight so that food can actually get absorbed and digested. So what ends up happening? Your gut becomes permeable and leaky. So I want to use this strainer as an example. Let's say you're boiling pasta and you're draining your pasta. Your gut can become so permeable that the strainer is actually not holding the pasta because the holes have gotten too big. And what happens when people get this condition? Well, a lot of deficiencies, a lot of systemic inflammation, and actually autoimmunity. Autoimmunity is a condition that kills, is the number one condition that kills women under 65 years old, and it's totally preventable by what you put in your mouth. Important to know that a lot of substances can actually breach the blood-brain barrier and be conducive to what is known as a leaky blood-brain barrier. So a leaky gut is suggestive of a leaky brain, and there's tons of research about this. So if you have symptoms of ADHD, or if you have a child that has autism or can't focus, or if you can't focus, you really want to pay attention to the foods that you're having to boost the health of your barrier and not develop these conditions. Now, also keep in mind that the species of bacteria that are in your gut will communicate with your brain to the gut-brain axis. And this is a two-way communication that will be very important that it's in balance because it dictates your mood, your behavior, and also your brain will tell your digestive system, hey, it's time to start making bile because we're having avocado. And if we just sit down and we don't chew our food, the brain doesn't have enough time to tell that to our gut. So keep that in mind as you eat and as you learn about all these healthy foods that will promote gut health. So a lot of people want to be in this cycle, right, of feeling good, where they are exercising regularly or doing active and fun things that are really good for them, that leads them to eat better and just be in a really good positive mindset. So now that I have shared this with you, what is it under your control to be in this state? Well, the takeaway number one is to eat more live foods. What are live foods? Foods that came from the earth, from the ocean, fish, and also from the sky, birds. So if the one takeaway from the show is to eat more live foods and throw away the dead foods, you are doing a lot for yourself. A live food is an egg. It's very easy for your body to digest. It's just the eggs. So you want to think about food as Christmas present. If I give you a Christmas present, you want to be open that Christmas present very easily in just one box with just one wrapping paper. Whereas if you consume foods that have a lot of ingredients and a lot of wrappers just because you think that, oh, it has 30 grams of protein, it's only 160 calories, but guess what? That's like me giving you a present wrapped in 50 boxes and 200 sheets of wrapping paper, which are all the ingredients here that your body and that your gut has to filter. So keep that in mind. If you cannot read and understand the ingredients, probably best to let it go. So I want to share with you some of the top foods for a healthy gut that you can eat on a regular basis. And I want to start with omega-3s. Omega-3s are essential fatty acids that make up our brain. So these are found in fish. Salmon is a great source. If you don't like salmon, you can also have sardines. There's other food choices like chia seeds and also flax seeds that are also really good sources of omega-3. They're just not as bioavailable. But guess what? These feed your gut and also help your hormones to be in balance. Now, another superfood that I love is avocado. And why do I love avocado so much? Because they have a lot of soluble fiber that feeds the really healthy good bacteria that live in your gut. Other really amazing foods for the gut are your fruits. Why? Because they contain water and a lot of phytonutrients that are fuel for the bacteria that are beneficial to flourish. A very amazing food that a lot of people overlook are sweet potatoes. I love sweet potatoes because they have resistant starch. And this happens when you cook a potato, you let it cool down, and then you eat it without reheating it. Wonderful foods. This is a live food. This is a dead food. So we want to be having more live foods to feel more alive and well. So I want to share with you some of the very practical steps and very practical things you can eat and acquire habits and routines to help your gut be in balance. I want to talk about aloe. Aloe vera has a lot of antimicrobial properties. So if there's an imbalance of an overgrowth, aloe vera is great. It's sold in juices, or you can really make yourself a smoothie just with a plant, which we have plenty here in Florida. Now, you may have heard about turmeric and ginger. These are very potent roots that decrease inflammation all in your body, and especially in the gut. I also want to invite you to try other foods that you may not have been exposed to in the past. Some of my favorite foods to help your gut be in balance are mushrooms, spinach. Tuna has a lot of vitamin D. You just don't want to be eating a lot of tuna, and by that I mean more than one kind a week. Why? Because it has mercury, and sometimes our body holds on that mercury and becomes really toxic. So keep that in mind. Sunshine is not a food, but is very helpful for our overall health and also digestive system. And eggs are great. So if you've been told by your doctor that you can't have eggs because you have high cholesterol, guess what? That's really outdated. That's from 20 years ago. So what we know now is that the foods that drive cholesterol are your processed packaged foods that have a lot of the oils that I mentioned tend to drive cholesterol up, like canola oil, soybean oil, and overall vegetable oils. And also think about this. When you eat eggs, most people eat eggs with bacon, which is processed meats, and also with a lot of oils and a lot of unhealthy ingredients like ketchup, and all that actually brings cholesterol up, not the eggs on their own. Now, I was just talking about sweet potatoes. So one of my favorite ways to eat sweet potatoes is by adding berries and banana and making a conjunction of all these superfoods to feel satisfied and also to nourish my gut. So last but not least, I want to share with you some home remedies for better digestion because your body is actually self-healing. Let's talk about what that looks like. Intermittent fasting is very, very popular, and it allows your gut to heal because that means that you're only eating for about 8 hours. So the best way to do this is to stop eating, let's say around 8 o'clock at night, and to not eat again until 10 a.m. or 12 p.m. That is about 14 to 16 hours of rest for your gut, which will allow your gut to heal and regenerate itself. So that is very important. Now, eating smaller portions will help, but don't be fooled. There's the myth that eating every 3 hours will speed your metabolism. You don't want to do that because your gut needs at least 4 to 5 hours in between your meals to rest and get rid of the debris of the previous foods and be ready for the next meal. So when you have your meals, make them dense, nutrient dense, and we'll be talking about this as we also show you some awesome recipes. We also want to learn how to stop eating at 80% full. What does that mean? You check in before you start eating, you check in your hunger, you check in the middle of the meal, and you see how full you get. Stopping at 80% can be really helpful so that you don't feel bloated. Bitters are awesome. So what are bitters? Like your spinach, your arugula. Some people that I work with tell me, Natalia, this is just vegetable, it's just too bitter, I can't eat it. Well, guess what? Your bitters help your liver, for example, make bile, which is needed for fat digestion. So eating your vegetables actually helps your digestive tract. Fermented foods are great. If you're gonna eat fermented foods, I really recommend you look for these in the refrigerated section and not in the pickled section because they're not the same. Other foods that are really good for gut health are legumes that have a lot of fiber. So which foods have fiber? Your fruits, your veggies, your avocados, your flaxseed, all these foods feed the really healthy bacteria. Now, let's talk about not eating before bed. We tend to do that a lot. So I encourage you that if it's dinner time, you know that you probably got enough food. And if you're sitting in front of the TV, snacking on something, at least be mindful of what you're having. And also be sure that if you know you're not hungry, to go brush your teeth, floss, because then guess what? Whatever you want to eat next is not gonna taste great. Now, apple cider vinegar can help you digest really well because it can help with your stomach acid. And the stomach acid is very important that it's in balance so that you can really digest and absorb your foods really well. So you can consume just a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar with a tablespoon of water and actually really optimize the environment of your gut. Digestive enzymes. A lot of people tell me and ask me, what are digestive enzymes? Should I take them? Should I not? They can help. Sometimes these are supplements that help bring the big food particles into smaller particles so that they can be absorbed by your gut. So they can be very helpful. They give your gut a little bit of a rest and they help in digestion, so it can be helpful. And also probiotics. Probiotics have been linked with better immunity, with better mood, with better diversity in your gut. So they are great to have on a regular basis, and want to go with really multi-species because that is going to support a healthy environment. Sleep, getting at least 7 to 8 hours of non-interrupted sleep is going to be very important for the species to flourish and also for your gut to be ready for the next meal and the next day. Exercise, huge. Remember, your big part of your gut is the size of a tennis court. So if you're sitting 8 to 10 hours a day and your gut is not getting any oxygen or blood flow, your digestion will suffer. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, listen to your gut. We are going from gut feeling to gut healing. And remember that your gut drives your health, your brain, immune system, and longevity. And how what you put on your fork makes a big difference. So we'll see you in the next one where you will learn how to make some quick, delicious, and healthy recipes to support your gut and your overall well-being. See you next time.